Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr Basil Zemplis.
Thanks, Michelle, and good evening, everybody. Can I declare the meeting formally opened at exactly 5 p.m. This is the City of Perth, April 2022 Ordinary Council meeting. Can I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Whadjuk Noongar people of Western Australia, and on behalf of all of us, I pay our respects to their elders past and present. It is a privilege to be standing on Whadjuk Noongar country. Michelle, can I ask you to recite the prayer, please?
Almighty God, under whose providence we hold responsibility for this city, grant us wisdom to understand its present needs, foresight to anticipate its future growth, and grace to serve our fellow citizens with integrity and selfless devotion. And to thee be all blessing and glory forever. Amen.
Thank you, Michelle. Please be seated, everybody. So we'll begin, as is customary, with attendance, and those in attendance today: Deputy Lord Mayor Di Bain, Councillor Sandy Angie, Councillor Clyde Bevan, Councillor Brent Fleeton, Councillor Rebecca Gordon, Councillor Liam Gobbett, Councillor Victor Coe, and Councillor Catherine Leeser. In addition, I welcome officers, members of the public, and any media in attendance this evening. No apologies have been received, and there are no councillors currently on an approved leave of absence. 3.3, 2 leave of absence applications have been received. One application is from Councillor Leeser for the period 19 August 2022 to 28 August 2022 inclusive. The second application is for Councillor Liam Gobbett for June 3, 2022 to June 6, 2022. They're not quite right, Liam, but looking at your reaction.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. No, that one had already been approved. It was the second one that was on the email request, which I think was the 2nd to the 6th of May.
Okay. Let's just make sure we have those dates down properly. So just give us those dates if you don't mind again.
I'll just double check in the email
that
I've sent.
Sure.
Apologies. The 3rd to the 6th of June.
So 3rd to the 6th of June is the one that we've just read out then.
And then the 2nd to the 6th of May.
2nd to the 6th of May. Okay, so let's make that clear. Second application is from Councillor Gobbett. 3rd of June 2022 to 6th of June 2022. And the 2nd of May 2022 to the 6th of May 2022. Do any other elected members have an application for a leave of absence? Okay, well, we'll move a motion now to approve those leave of absence applications. So can we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Seconded, Councillor Fleeton. Anybody wish to object to those? Great. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. We move to item 4, announcements by the Lord Mayor. There's a lot to get through tonight, so I'll just be brief. But firstly, it was my great honour and privilege to represent the City of Perth at Anzac Day ceremonies yesterday. It began with the traditional dawn service at Kings Park, and although there was a cap on the number of people who were permitted to attend of around 500, I note that some members of the public did still attend anyway, but it was a great privilege and pleasure to be there representing the City of Perth. We then made our way to the Gunfire Breakfast. The CEO, Michelle Reynolds, accompanied me. The Gunfire Breakfast at Government House, then part of the official party for the traditional Anzac Day March. It was excellent to see so many people back in the city. Those supporting family members who were marching, or family members who were marching for family members, and others who came to enjoy it. And my day ended with the 10th Light Horsemen at the Irwin Barracks, and a wonderful event that they had for family members, for friends, for their staff, and for those great reservists to make up a famous regiment within the Australian Army. And it was wonderful to be able to attend all of those events, do it safely, and to see everybody following the rules. But Anzac Day, such a special day, and great to see so many people involved again. Today in the city, a really good number of people in both the malls. I went and had a look at both Hay Street and Murray Street at around about midday, and a lot of activity. And then at 1 o'clock today, the Health Minister with the announcement that, amongst other things, significant easing of restrictions, which includes the requirement to wear masks coming down, particularly as it's relevant to us in the CBD and for office workers from Friday. We've been very consistent that we know from the example in other capital cities that the mask mandate removal has made a big difference to the number of office workers coming back into the office. And Melbourne's example is perhaps the most relevant for us. 18% office occupancy the month before the mask mandates came down, 60% after the mask mandates came down, and in the most recent month that has continued to climb. So we're very optimistic about numbers of people coming back into our city. And when we consider all of the things that we've had to consider, the absolute jewel in our city's crown is its people. And to have as many people back as is possible now is a huge win for our city. We thank the state government for their terrific management. We appreciate it's been very difficult for some small businesses and larger and medium businesses, but nonetheless, we arrive at this point from Friday together, and it is onwards and upwards. And I'm very optimistic that we're going to see a great shot in the arm for our city from Friday onwards, and we look forward to it and welcome it and thank those decision makers for not only keeping us safe, but also listening quite strongly to what we have had to say around the lifting of the mask mandates and other restrictions. So we move now to item 5.1, which is public questions. And CEO, have any public questions been received?
Yes, Lord Mayor, a series of questions have been received by Maria Jovanovic, who does not appear to be in the chamber.
Is Maria here tonight? Oh, okay. All right, thank you. So that's all, is it? Just the questions from Maria?
Correct.
Okay. So before we commence public question time, I'll remind everyone 15 minutes is allocated for public question time, and this time is available for asking questions only and is not for making statements or expressing personal opinions. In addition, no discussion of the questions or answers is to take place. Now, Maria is not here, we've established. We'll just give Maria one more opportunity on the off chance that she's outside and perhaps making her way in. Doesn't appear so. So those questions have been received and they have been addressed, correct, CEO?
Yes. So through governance, can we put these on the record?
Yeah, that's fine. They'll be included in the minutes of the meeting.
Great.
Terrific, thank you. Are there any other public questions from the floor? Not tonight? Thank you. Let's go then to item 6 on the agenda, and that is disclosures of interest. CEO, have any disclosures been received?
Yes, Lord Mayor, the following interests have been received. An impartiality interest from Councillor Angie in relation to item 11.3, an impartiality interest from Councillor Angie in relation to 11.4, an impartiality interest from Councillor Angie in relation to item 12.1, an impartiality interest from Councillor Bevan in relation as Jeff Leach attended his restaurant some months ago and was also involved in PropTech WA. An impartiality interest from Councillor Angie in relation to item 17.1, an impartiality interest from Deputy Lord Mayor Bain in relation to item 17.1, a financial interest from Lord Mayor Basil Zemplis in relation to item 18.1, and an impartiality interest from Deputy Lord Mayor Bain in relation to 18.1.
Thank you, CEO. Do any elected members have any disclosures of interest from the floor? Councillor Bevan, are you able to tell us what Mr Leach ordered at your restaurant? You don't have to answer that. Item number 7 is the confirmation of minutes. Moving on to item 7, would anyone like to move a motion for the confirmation to confirm the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held 29 March 2022? Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Bevan. Do any members oppose this motion? No?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What if you weren't here?
Well, you can't oppose it, I suppose.
Just not vote?
You still have to vote.
You have to vote.
Still have to vote.
Well, I'll vote for it.
Okay. So that being the case, I think there are. It is unopposed. So we'll now declare that carried unanimously. There are no questions by members which due notice has been given. No correspondence has been received. And item 10, petitions, none of them either. So we go to reports. Now, before we move on to reports tonight, I'm going to move a motion that the following items be carried en bloc. They are 14.1 monthly financial report for Feb 2022, 14.2 schedule of accounts paid Feb 2022, 14.3 response to the 2020-2021 independent auditors report, and 15.1 appointment of honorary treasurer to the Lord Mayor's Distress Relief Fund. Can I now get a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Fleeton. Do any members oppose this motion? No. This motion being unopposed, I'll now declare it carried unanimously. The recommendations of those items have now been passed en bloc in accordance with clause 9.2 of the City of Perth Standing Orders Local Law 2009, and the officer recommendations have been adopted by Council. We'll now be moving on to the reports which have been extracted for debate. And the first of those, item 11, Planning and Economic Development Alliance reports. 11.1 is the Sustainability Strategy 2022-2026. Would anyone like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thank you, Councillor Coe. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Leeser. Councillor Coe.
Nothing to add.
Thank you, Councillor Leeser. Would anyone like to speak against the motion?
Thanks, Lord Mayor. Just quickly to clarify, the agenda I'm looking at, is it 2022 to 32 or to 26? Because the title doesn't match what we're endorsing. And then in the recommendation, it's got one endorses to 2032. That wasn't the extent of my contribution, but I just saw
No, thank you. Still, it's an important one. CEO, via you to the General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you through you, Lord Mayor. It's a 10-year strategy to 2032.
Lord Mayor, if I could just speak against it.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm just going to make a few comments. So I can't support the measures. I asked some questions last week. Some of the answers were almost there. So I wanted to give the city a chance to answer them. I didn't inject myself in the delivery of this policy because I knew I'd be in the minority, and I know most want to see this happen, so just saving my comments for now. Page 18 is where most of my issues lie. It's talking about delivery against delivering support to the community to achieve net zero emissions, identify and assess climate change risks for the community, and support the community to adapt and build resilience to climate change. Three very important issues that a local government just has nothing to do with. The state and federal governments have resources and teams of people to support our community doing that. Page 20, some of the wording here just doesn't make sense to me. We're talking about things where we say we understand where a resource is abundant and renewable like our sunshine, and when it is scarce and finite like our water. Water's neither scarce nor finite, and understanding the answers to the questions they're talking about a very specific issue to do with our parks and gardens, but the strategy is more outward looking rather than what we're doing. It's talking in very big terms around transforming supply chains and being active in our role here. I don't really see that as what we're here to do. We've got language throughout the document, page 23, 6.3, deliver the transition to end homelessness. That's not our role. We're trying to exit that and get the state government to pick up where they were lacking when we were first elected. Page 24, support city businesses to embed sustainability principles in their business practices. That's not our role. This whole thing reads to me like a very aspirational document. That's fine. But if you're going to pass this, you need to know what the plan is and what the resource implications are. I mean, the teams of people to do this properly is astronomical. So I know this is a high-level document and we'll see plans later, but what the city's going to do is say, well, you've passed the strategy, so now you need a plan and you need to fund it. So these are very, very good projects to undertake, but it's like us getting into the defence space because defence is important for Perth. Of course it is, but it's another government's level of responsibility. So looked at the answers, not supporting it.
Okay. So, Councillor Fleeton, you're speaking against the motion, but you're not proposing anything further?
No, I want to register my vote against.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there anyone who wishes to speak for the motion? Anyone else who wishes? Yes, Councillor Angie.
Just a question. Is it possible to take I'll put forward a motion to defer the item to an elected member engagement session for further discussion?
Yeah. So a seconder for that, please. I'll second it. Can I second it? Yeah, I'll second it. I will put that to a vote. All those in favour?
Sure, defer it.
Those in favour are Councillor Coe, Councillor Angie, Councillor Gobbett and the Lord Mayor. And those against? Councillor Leeser, Councillor Fleeton, Councillor Gordon, Councillor Bevan, Deputy Lord Mayor Bain. So that's defeated 5-4 or 4-5. So back to the original motion and the debate. Was there anyone else for or against? Councillor Leeser?
Yeah, I'll say something for.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, point of order. You had the opportunity to speak as seconder and you didn't.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Thank you. Anyone else for or against? Councillor Coe, close the debate.
I'll just mention, yes, this is an aspirational document. I believe there needs to be, if we are able to speak in the tune of basically saying that we do support change, climate change, and we want all of this to happen, we can turn around and actually say to the state government, we are doing our bit, it's your turn to step up as well. So the thing is for us homelessness is another example. The thing is, it's very hard for us to tell state government to do something if we're not doing anything ourselves. Basically, you have to be able to set an example yourself, and I believe the council itself is doing all it can within its capacity.
Thanks, Councillor Coe. So we will now put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that is Councillor Leeser, Councillor Coe, Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Bevan, Councillor Gordon. All those against? That's Councillor Angie, Councillor Gobbett, Lord Mayor and Councillor Fleeton. So that motion is passed 5-4. Thanks, everyone. We go now to 11.2, the Economic Development Strategy. Would anybody like to move a motion to deal with this item? Yes, Councillor Fleeton, thank you. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett.
Just a few comments. So another aspirational document, but I questioned the city, I think, in one of our engagement sessions and saw a few questions from Councillor Gordon. Overall, I think it's been workshopped well with our stakeholders. There might be some areas that I don't see the tangibles yet. However, I do see this as a core business of the City of Perth government. We know how fragile our inner city economy is, and the ED team has very good relationships in Perth. If we can formalise what they're doing, I think it gives confidence to us when we're formalising our budget and resourcing them year in, year out. Years gone by, I think teams within the city were going off out into the community and doing pet projects without any sort of strategies. So there was comments made to me during the week that we seem to spend a lot of our time as a council looking inwardly at strategies and documents. So that's because of what's happened over the last few years, where previous councils and commissioners stripped the place bare, and now people are looking at us to achieve things, and first you need a strategy. So while I was scathing in my comments before about another strategy, I think this is well workshopped and most of the way there. But again, I do want to see what's the work plan, what are the resources you need, what are you going to achieve, and at the end of the day, what's the outcome for the ratepayer? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Seconded by Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Gobbett?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And in just picking up on a few of Councillor Fleeton's comments, I think the way that the themes have been put together, and I'd like to thank, I think might have been Urbis for their work on helping to develop this. The initiatives and the timeframes are tied to each of those, and again, Deliver Partner, Advocate. I think it's been thought through quite well in that regard, and I look forward to the implementation framework and the years in which we can deliver those. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Now, does anybody wish to speak against this motion? Anyone? Councillor Angie?
I guess for and against in a way. It is a strategy that we need, and there are some great parts to it, as mentioned by the others. However, I still have some concerns. I've raised a number of questions at the last meeting. I believe some of the timeframes that have been set of 0 to 2 years, in my view, don't look achievable. I've already highlighted that in questions, so I won't go through it again. And in addition to not being achievable, I think some of those items, that we need to be focusing on in the short and long term, enduring manner, not just for the next 2 years. And then just noting some significant omissions. I don't feel like there was enough significance or attention placed in the strategy on increasing our residential population across our city neighbourhoods. I believe that's paramount to improving our vibrancy 24/7 across the city, and I feel like that should have been more significant in the strategy. And also another significant omission is the kind of lack of discussion on the importance of the student economy to our city, particularly with the opening of ECU shortly, and the significant other campuses in our city. And I feel like they're two major things that for me were missed.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. Anyone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Gordon?
Ask a question, please.
Sure.
Just regarding whether or not you'd usually expect to see information pertaining to population targets in an economic development strategy. Is that the intention of the strategy?
Yeah.
If I could answer that, not necessarily. And I think previously hard targets which have been presented from the City of Perth haven't necessarily had any robust analysis or methodology underpinning them. So from our perspective, we didn't feel it was necessary in a strategy.
Okay, thanks, CEO. Are there any other questions, or anyone else wish to speak for or against? No? Councillor Fleeton.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. Just answering a few of Councillor Angie's points. The local planning strategy and the work that Dale's team is doing should be read sort of concurrently. You're not going to be able to fit that into this document, so it's incredibly important, but you wouldn't be able to replicate it and keep it within 500 pages. The students in the city deal aspect the same, and I think with population targets, what we've seen pre-COVID, the 90,000 aspirational target is no longer achievable given what the city's been through. We definitely need to keep trying with ensuring that people are building and living in the core, but anything pre-2020 I think needs to be reevaluated.
Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors. Item 11.3, the initiation of amendment number 48 to the City Planning Scheme number 2 to modify existing plot ratio provisions with special control area 27 over 28 and 32, lot 51 and 52, Trude Street, and 196, lot 200, Collin Place in West Perth. Councillor Angie, an impartiality interest has been noted here. Would anybody like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Gobbett? Councillor Fleeton? Does anybody wish to speak for? Anyone against? Yes, Councillor Coe. For?
Just a question. It's when landowners ask to change plot ratio, has there been like any concerns or complaints from the community about this?
Thank you, Councillor Coe. CEO?
If I could ask the General Manager, Planning and Economic Development to answer that.
Thank you. Through you, Lord Mayor, there are a couple of components to that. One, if we are seeking to substantially change plot ratio for a site, sometimes that may draw some concern. In this case, the plot ratio, the overall plot ratio or the upper limit plot ratio for the site is already in place, and it's just the ability to raise the level of the rest of the site to the same level. So the applicant's not asking for anything over and above what's already permissible if they develop it with a certain land use. And in terms of the consultation, the purpose of this report is for council to initiate the amendment for the purposes of consultation. So we'll go out and consult, and then a report will need to come back to council once the consultation is concluded.
Cool, thanks for that.
Thanks, General Manager. Any further questions or anyone for or against? No? Councillor McCobbett? No? Okay, let's put that to the vote then. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors. Item 11.4, submission on proposed changes to the Development Assessment Panel system. Councillor Angie, we note an impartiality interest has been declared here. Would anyone like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. A seconder, please. Thanks, Councillor Leeser. Councillor Gobbett.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. And just to reiterate some of the comments that are captured in the report, particularly about the city's representation to this, to the DAPS, or the proposed representation to the DAPS, I think it's absolutely critical that local government representation remains and that it is carries the same level of weight as an independent member. So I hope that the state government takes those comments from the city seriously and that we're able to represent our ratepayers on significant development applications that affect them. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. The seconder was Councillor Leeser. Nothing, Councillor Leeser. Anyone for? Against? Councillor Gobbett? Feels like you just said it. Thank you. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thanks. Carried unanimously. Item 12, Community Development Alliance reports, and 12.1 is the 2021-2022 Economic Development Sponsorship Program. Councillor Angie, I note an impartiality interest has been declared here. Would anybody like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thanks, Councillor Angie. A second, Councillor Coe. Thank you, Councillor Angie.
Just it's great to see support for the tech sector in Perth, and I've been to events myself that both of these companies have put on, and they do a really great job of helping to build the startup community in Perth and helping to support people. So just pleased to see this before us.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. Seconder was Councillor Coe. Anything to add? Anybody wish to speak for? Councillor Fleet.
So I'll just make a comment. Yeah. Why is such a small amount coming to us for the 6,000 per year?
Sia, this is for Space Cube Ventures. So it equates to 6,000 per year in financial year 2021-22. It's on that second line there of A.
Could I please ask the General Manager Community Development to answer that question?
Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor, they've requested 6,000 for 3 years, so the actual request is 18,000, so it exceeds the 15,000, so is based on going up to council for consideration.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for or against? Councillor Angie.
It's probably a good point by Councillor Fleeton that they are small amounts. It'd be great to see in the future greater support for the tech sector in Perth, and hopefully that's something that will come out of the tech action plan, which is underway.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's go to 13, Infrastructure and Operations Alliance reports. There aren't any. 14, Corporate Service Alliance reports. On block is 14.1, the monthly financial report for February 2022. Also on block 14.2, the schedule of accounts paid February 2022. 14.3 is the response to 2020-2021 Independent Auditors Report. That's also on block. 15 is Chief Executive Officer reports. 15.1 is the appointment of the Honorary Treasurer to the Lord Mayor's Distress Relief Fund. That has been passed on block. 15.2, adoption of the Strategic Community Plan for 2022-2023. Would anyone like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thank you, Councillor Gobbett. A seconder, please. Thanks, Councillor Gordon. Councillor Gobbett, if you'd be good enough to shake your head. Councillor Gordon?
Just to say that of the different strategic documents that on the agenda this evening, I thought this one was the most well considered, well articulated and consulted. So thank you to the team that came up with it.
Thanks, Councillor Gordon. Does anybody wish to speak for or against? Deputy Lord Mayor.
I'm speaking for.
Yeah.
I concur with Councillor Gordon's comments there. It's a great document. I'm really saddened that it doesn't have a better vision. I know that we've kind of landed on our 3 pillars as being our vision, but I think that there would be a community expectation that we have a transcendent and aspirational statement that articulates clearly what our city will be known for in many years to come, and hopefully in future meetings we as a council can have some conversation about that. But I'm supportive of the document.
Thanks, Deputy Lord Mayor. I will note that it did come to an elected member engagement session and the opportunity was given to councillors to provide feedback on those very comments, Deputy Lord Mayor. I think it was felt, and I think I'm right in summarising the view of those who were in the room at the time, that in the absence of something that felt like it was spot on, that we might leave it for now and revisit it as appropriate. But there was the opportunity given at the elected member engagement session for councillors to weigh in on that. I'm sure the opportunity will represent itself. Does anyone wish to speak against? Anyone else for? Councillor Gobbett? Thank you. Let's put this one to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 16 is committee reports, and there aren't any tonight. 17 notices a motion. Oh, actually, before I do that, it did occur to me just then, although I think everybody knows that I didn't mention at the start, that in accordance with Council Policy 1.4, this meeting is being live streamed and the recording will be made available on the city's website following the meeting. But you're all regular attendees now and you all knew that, but there you go, better late than never. If anyone wants something to be taken out, probably can't, but anyway, put your hand up, you never know. Moving on to item 17 now, as I said, motions of which notice has been given. 17.1, notice of motion, Councillor Sandy Angie. Free parking on Hay Street in West Perth. Now, I note some interests have been declared here. Councillor Sandy Angie, an impartiality interest, and the Deputy Lord Mayor also an impartiality interest. Councillor Angie. Yep, so Councillor Angie, sorry, there was a typo on this. Councillor Angie has submitted a notice of motion, and Councillor Angie, can I ask you to please read that for us?
Thanks, Lord Mayor. The notice of action was actually deferred from the last council meeting, but I'm putting up an alternate motion, a slightly amended form, so the past one no longer is relevant. So the alternate motion is to support local business and neighbourhood vibrancy in West Perth that council endorses on a trial basis until 30 June 2023. A, extension of the 1 hour free parking area to Harvest Terrace and Thomas Street on Hay Street on Saturdays. B, extension of the 1 hour free parking to Harvest Terrace, Thomas Street on Hay Street from Monday to Friday. C, extension of the free parking initiative to Outram Street and Collin Street, West Perth on Saturdays, and the reduction of paid parking across West Perth from 8 a.m. to midday on Saturdays. So there was just for the purposes of governance, so just a consolidation instead of repeating on a trial basis. I put that in the top line on the suggestion of another councillor. So endorses on a trial basis until 30 June 2023. And then everything else is the same.
Mika, can you just move the screen up, please, so we can... So is that captured right there now, Councillor Angie?
Yes, that's as per what I submitted this afternoon, last week. So the reason for this notice
So
of
we just
motion.
need a seconder
Okay.
first. Yeah. Yeah.
I just got a question, but I'll ask.
Yeah, no, that's right. So Councillor Gobbett seconding and Councillor Angie, your reasons, thank you.
The reason for this notice of motion is simple. On weekends and even some weekdays, I regularly see sections of Hay Street where there are no cars at all or very few cars parked in the curbside parking. While there is currently 1 hour free parking Monday to Saturday on a section of Hay Street, whereby customers may obtain a 1 hour no fee payable ticket, this initiative extends only from Emerald Terrace to Outram Street at the moment. The first two parts, A and B, of my notice of motion relate to the extension of this area of free parking to Harvest Terrace and Thomas Street on Hay Street from Monday to Saturday on a trial basis. This is as suggested in the administration's response to my original notice of motion at the last meeting. Specifically, the administration stated at paragraph 10, an opportunity exists to extend on a trial basis the 1 hour free parking area to Harvest Terrace and Thomas Street on Hay Street from Monday to Saturday. At paragraph 11, they stated extending the 1 hour free parking area will increase car bays to 121. At point 12, the administration stated the trial can be for the remainder of 2021-22 financial year and 2022-23 or until COVID-19 conditions abate. And point 13 in the admin's response was that to assist with the community's awareness of the on-street and off-street parking options, maps can be produced highlighting to businesses and users the availability and conditions of parking. In the administration's response to my questions at the agenda briefing session last week, they provided a table of information which is on the provided to the elected members, but just reading out for the benefit of others. But it shows that in the section of Hay Street from Outram Street to Thomas Street, the fees currently raised on a Saturday in this financial year is only $2,163. That's for the financial year to date. And then fees raised in the 2021 financial year for the entire year on that section of Hay Street was only $3,412. Now, fees raised for that section from Monday to Friday in the current financial year was $54,833, and from Monday to Friday in the previous financial year was $70,483 in total. So based on this table, the likely impact to the city's budget on a Saturday is modest, around $3,000 for the year. However, the potential benefits for local businesses currently open on a Saturday is obvious. As stated by West Perth local representatives, it reduces the cost of a Saturday coffee by $4.10, and the free parking in time may even encourage others to open on a Saturday, contributing to neighbourhood vibrancy. The businesses in West Perth currently open on a Saturday seem to be clustered in the free parking zone, bar one. While the likely impact on the city's budget of extending the free parking area from Monday to Friday is greater, the potential benefits to local businesses are also greater. The second part of my notice of motion, part C, is to extend on a trial basis as the free parking initiative to Outram Street and Collin Street, West Perth on Saturdays. In the administration's response to my questions at the agenda briefing session, they again provided a table which gives an indication of the potential budget impacts of this initiative. So for Outram Street, the fees raised in the current financial year to date for the entire year is $4,524, and for 2021 it was $5,905. For Collins Street, the fees raised on a Saturday in the current year to date are $8,903, and on a Saturday, and last financial year on a Saturday was $11,743 for the year. So the extension of free parking to include these 3 hour areas, in addition to the Hay Street area, would give visitors to West Perth more time on a Saturday to spend money at the local businesses and enable them to spend this money in local stores rather than on parking. And I think many of us would have read recent media reports of the increased cost of living and how that's impacting families across the state. While coffee or a breakfast may be 1 hour, this is not enough time for people to browse through one of the specialty shops in West Perth open on a Saturday, including Cavania Gift Shop, St Louis Blues, the Running Centre, and a couple of others. So they don't have to run off after their coffee. Let's give them a bit more time. Times are tough out there at the moment, as I said, and all of these little things can make a huge difference to small business owners. I hear continually the cost of parking and the time limits on street parking is a barrier to people who are visiting our city. Let's remove this barrier where it's financially viable to do so. We have 3-hour free parking in the CBD on weekends. Let's help out our West Perth neighbours and businesses with some 3-hour free parking too. The final part of my notice of motion, the Part D, is the reduction of paid parking across West Perth from 8 a.m. to midday on Saturdays. So so people only pay from 8 a.m. till midday, and in the afternoon is free. And this was as suggested by the team from West Perth Local, representatives here tonight, in their 2 deputations, in order to bring West Perth in line with surrounding suburbs. In the administration's response to my questions at the agenda briefing session, they provided, again, another table with an indication of potential budget impacts of this Part D of my initiative. So, fees raised on a Saturday after midday, currently in this current financial year, is $28,550, and fees raised on a Saturday in the last financial year for the entire year from midday to 6 p.m. was $36,000. So the cost of this initiative is, around $35,000. This change will have a modest impact on the budget, and yet the potential benefits of West Perth could be significant. A couple of examples, again provided by West Perth Local, is that this change will enable people to park in West Perth, grab a coffee and walk up to Kings Park, where there's currently a shortage of parking, or perhaps start the afternoon in West Perth and explore the other parts of the city on a CAT buses, or as I said before, have time for more than just a bite to eat and more time to browse around the shops. And finally, West Perth is unique, as are all of our city neighbourhoods. There is no one-size-fits-all solution across the city for parking or any other matter. We have the data, we know the potential budget impacts. Let's make these changes now and support local businesses through challenging times. As I've said, times are tough, and all of these things we can do can make a huge difference to small business owners. The time is right, as stated by Steve Wellard from West Perth Local, to make positive change and help West Perth local businesses breathe new life back into West Perth in a fair and balanced manner.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. Can I just a question? So, Harvest Terrace is now part of this motion. Is that? Sorry. Harvest Terrace.
Yeah, so that was as suggested by the administration. I've just done exactly what their recommendation was.
It wasn't part of the original motion, was it?
I've put up the alternate motion.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Councillor Gobbett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I think it was worthwhile having that additional discussion in the engagement session, because I'm happy to support Councillor Angie's motion. I think the comments from Steve Wellard last week in just highlighting how this hasn't been just suddenly brought on by the onset of COVID, although it has, I think, as we'd all appreciate, massively affected it. It's been a slow burn over a number of years, and watching Subiaco Oval no longer be there, and the people that might have been through traffic maybe not so much appearing as frequently, but I know from experience I'm living in East Perth that if I've got a few things to do on the day, I find that 1 hour parking in East Perth super convenient to just drop in, have a coffee, walk around for a bit, jump in my car and drive away. I look forward to what this motion will be meaning for those businesses in West Perth that can take advantage of this, and in supporting them for what is a very small amount of money in comparison to the overall budget of the city. It is still an impact. You can't ignore that. But what that will mean for businesses who in the area that might be struggling, I think it's a worthwhile initiative to support. So quite happy to support Councillor Angie's motion and look forward to the outcomes it will bring.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Appreciate it. Deputy Lord Mayor?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Do we pay the parking levy on these street bays?
CEO?
If I could direct these questions to Nathan Ahern as the manager of our parking business.
Thank you, through the Lord Mayor. Yes, we do. We pay the parking levy. The city has, in running these 1 hour free parking areas across other parts of the city, lobbied the Department of Transport to have the fees waived, but we have been unsuccessful in getting them to waive the fees.
And just to follow up, how much is each bay?
Lord Mayor, each bay is $1,058 per annum.
So how many bays are we talking about in this notice of motion?
57. 54.
There's 121 bays, plus the addition of extra bays between Havelock and Harvest.
Just the microphone on if you could. Thanks, Nathan. Maybe just pull that whole thing a bit closer to you if you could, if it'll come closer. Yeah, done.
Okay. There's 121 bays between Havelock and Thomas. The addition to Harvest, we could estimate at 20, so let's say 140 bays.
Times 1,000 per bay.
And $58, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so is there anybody who wishes to speak for the motion? Councillor Bevan?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to commend Councillor Sandy Angie for a well-developed and informative motion. I spent some time many years ago in West Perth. It was a very vibrant and very exciting part of the city. I have to say that electioneering over the last couple of years in West Perth is very disappointing. Very sad to see the demise of many shops and to walk into the shopping centre and seeing so many empty shops. I went there because there was a promotion for a market, and I went there especially to go to the markets and support the markets, and they were closed. And this part of West Perth, and I see that adding these extra amount of bays would not only support further on down the street, but certainly back towards where the main part of West Perth is as well. And I fully support this motion.
Thanks, Councillor Bevan. Is there anybody who wishes to speak? Is this a question, Councillor Gordon?
It is a question, Lord Mayor. Is that okay?
Please.
Thank you. I was just wondering, we had some figures quoted by Councillor Angie in her opening speech. Can we clarify whether those figures contained the consequences of making this motion for extending it to Harvest Terrace, or if it excluded those bays?
Yeah, thank you. From the CEO, through to you, Nathan.
Yes, thank you, through the Lord Mayor. The calculations are from Havelock Street through to Outram, so the addition between Havelock and Harvest, those numbers were not provided at the engagement session.
Okay, just on the question. So, Councillor Angie, can I just check the numbers quoted there? 28,500 for Saturday till midday?
Lord Mayor, you've got all the answers in the pack. They were all asked at the agenda briefing session. So.
Okay, I just want to check those figures then with Nathan, if that's right by you, CEO.
Yes, Lord Mayor. So the numbers provided by Councillor Angie were as presented by the administration at the elected member engagement session. However, the difference between the motion now being from Harvest to Havelock have not been provided yet.
Okay.
I actually did ask that question and wasn't provided with that information, and the reason I included Harvest Terrace in the notice of motion is that was exactly as recommended by the administration in their response to my notice of motion.
Sure. Okay. CEO, is there anything you might like to direct through to Nathan? Yeah. Let's just get the answer to that first, and then we'll come back to you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lord Mayor, what's the question, please?
So the question from Councillor Angie that you don't believe you had a response to, is that correct?
No, it was just a point of clarification, really, in that the answers are as that I quoted were directly from the administration. They're not my numbers. They were provided to all of us at the engagement session and at the agenda briefing last week. And I did ask for the data on the extension of Harvest Terrace.
Yes.
The reason I included Harvest Terrace in my notice of motion is because that's exactly what the administration recommended as the right approach. And I guess the reason they recommended that is so that there's uniformity across Hay Street. So if you look, for example, of that one block on Hay Street, which was $3,000 a year in revenue, you would imagine that an extra block to Harvest Terrace would be a similar $3,000 in revenue.
Understood. Yeah, understood. So, Nathan, can you provide some clarification? I don't believe the CEO was in that session, I don't think.
Yes, through you, the Lord Mayor. The table that was presented in the elected member engagement session was provided exactly from what was requested of the administration, and that was the numbers that were provided. It did not include Harvest Terrace.
Sorry, that was a subsequent question I asked after I got the administration's response, which included Harvest Terrace, which is in an email from the agenda briefing session last week. So, I mean, if someone wants to amend it to take that out, that's your
Is this a question or was Councillor,
Right.
debating with the staff.
No, I think it's just providing some clarity. I think that's fair enough. We want to know that we're all considering the same thing. Yeah, yeah. So how many bays are we talking? That's right.
The exact number of bays I'll have to take on notice, but we could estimate somewhere between 20 to 25 bays in that stretch of road.
Yeah. So what I am hoping to determine is what the overall cost will be now. I am inclined to support Councillor Angie's motion, but I just want to be certain that this is not blowing out to some astronomical number that nobody had considered. I note also that it doesn't include the impact of the parking levy. Is that correct?
Yes, through the Lord Mayor, there is no provision for the parking levy to be stopped. We will still be paying this.
Okay. This is a question, Councillor Angie.
The parking levy is a sunk cost. We pay that anyway, so I don't see how that's actually relevant.
Okay. Right. Does anybody wish to speak for or against the motion?
Can I just ask my question?
Yeah, sure.
Does the administration think that this will open the floodgates by approving little streets here and there, which I love the idea. I think it's great. Free parking for everyone. Like, I'd love to get lots of people into the city with that. And Dave's my hairdresser. I feel completely uncomfortable, Dave, having this conversation because I feel like it's a conflict of interest, but it's not. But I just want to know, does the administration think that this is going to open the floodgates, and will we get every other small business in Perth asking us to look at their streets, and would we be better doing something more strategic rather than tactical?
It has always been the administration's preference that all on-street parking be looked at in its entirety to ensure there are no unintended consequences, to fully inform of the financial impact, and to ensure consistency and equity across the city.
So can I just say at this point, I'm alive to all of those things that have just been raised by both the Deputy Lord Mayor and by the CEO. However, it appears to me that for the amount that we are talking, given the reasons that we have heard, and the willingness, I think, from this council to support our neighbourhoods, and in this case, West Perth, I am going to support the motion, but I would like to move an amendment to add a point 2 to the motion, and that would read that council requests the Chief Executive Officer conduct a review of all on-street parking and present the findings to an elected member engagement session within 6 months. I think it's clear that we need a body of work like that. Okay, that's seconded by the Deputy Lord Mayor. Well, I think it's self-explanatory. I think it's clear that we need a larger body of work to consider all of our neighbourhoods, to consider all on-street parking, and it's a body of work that I think this council would like to see done. They're my reasons. That's why I will be, or why I have moved the amendment. Councillor, Deputy Lord Mayor Bain?
Yeah, I agree with you. We are, in the next year or so, I don't know, whenever it is, we're going to be upgrading our technology in terms of parking. So there are ways that we can help businesses like Theory for Hair and others by, using technology to give them, valet passes and stuff like that. So I wouldn't want to kind of rush into doing something without there being some strategic thought around it. And the unintended consequences are exactly what concerns me.
Yeah. Thanks, Deputy Lord Mayor. Does anybody wish to speak against the amendment?
I'll ask another question if
Sure.
I can.
Yeah.
We're talking about the difference between doing something sort of ad hoc or a piecemeal basis and then doing something more strategic. So why are we why does the amendment only refer to on-street parking when we might want to pull levers with all of our parking to achieve the desired outcome?
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess in this instance we're talking about on-street parking, and so hence the reason for the way that I've framed the amendment. But it's not to say that somebody can't amend the amendment, I guess. Is there anybody that wishes to speak for the amendment, for or against?
Just a point of clarity,
Yeah.
Lord Mayor. The amendment, is that designed to replace the original motion?
No, so it would be to add point 2 to the motion. So it would be as presented by Councillor Angie and adding point 2, and the point 2 would be the part that deals with conducting a review and asking that to come back to an elected member engagement session within 6 months. So amendment we're still dealing with at the moment. Anyone for Councillor Gobbett?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yep, I think this goes to address the points that we discussed following the previous council meeting. It's absolutely the better thing to do to make strategic decisions, but that shouldn't ever preclude us from making decisions when there are issues raised by our community with us. I think for the sake of consistency, yes, I'm quite happy to support the Lord Mayor's amendment to the primary motion as amended. But I think we should absolutely just get on and support business where we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Anyone wish to speak against the amendment? I'll just close it out by saying this. Oh, yes, Councillor Angie.
Oh no, just to say that I was happy with the amendment, something that we discussed, the engagement session. I think, if this motion has prompted a full review of on-street parking, then that's an additional amazing outcome.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Angie. Well, I'll just conclude this part of the discussion by saying I commend Councillor Angie for her work here. There's clearly been a lot of work go into it. I think we are all, I will say that I think we're all alive to some of the other issues that have been raised in the discussion tonight, and they are worthy of our consideration. But I think the greater good probably, for the moment, outweighs those considerations, and that's why I'm hopeful that by adding point 2, we might be able to get a full suite of answers to all of those questions and a very thorough piece of work come back. So I'll put the amendment to the vote now. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. So we return now to the amended primary motion. That's the right terminology. Yes, Councillor Fleeton.
Just a question first. I've been actively listening to everything and I'm still confused. On the answer page, on page 291 of the agenda, am I adding up everything, the monetary amounts for FY21? So I get around, excluding the few bays that we haven't counted, this is going to cost about $128,000 now. Is that right? Because the trial goes for about one financial year or 12 months.
CEO to Nathan.
Through you, Lord Mayor, if I may go through each of the A, B and C points and note on page, Councillor Fleeton, page 291, and I will explain what number relates to what letter, if that's...
Sure, that's even better.
Okay, so if we get to... Just can't see what I'm looking at now, sorry. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So 1A, extension of 1 hour free, Harvest Terrace to Thomas Street. If we look in the diagram there, we will see on the top row, that is the section of street. And then if we move across to the third column, where it says 3,412, that is section A, and that was the full amount of income for 2021. Section B, extension of 1 hour, Harvest Terrace and to Thomas Street on Monday to Friday. That's the fourth column over, which is 70,483. Then if we go back to the third column and go down to where we see the Outram Street line, and it says 5,905, that's section C, as well as section C is on Collin Street there at 11,743. And then section D is the final line, which goes down there and it says 36,756. So my quick maths had that at $137,000 per annum, Councillor.
Thanks for that. I'll just make some comments now. So effectively, we're making a decision on whether or not we're investing that in West Perth for about 14 months while we go away and do a review. Totally fine. My issue is, what happens if another neighbourhood group comes to us next month and state, we get that you're doing this longer term review, the technology discussion we've had for so long now, where we're able to do dynamic pricing and offer discounts to our commuters. So this could quickly become, if we treated every neighbourhood group the same, take out Nedlands and Crawley because I don't think we have that much parking there, you're looking at a big investment. I think we need to just pause before we jump in here, because the motion that I deferred at the last meeting was just looking at the Saturday. And I went for a walk with Dave Lee last Friday. We spoke to the chap that runs the burger joint. He doesn't open on Saturdays at the moment, and he was having a shocking day. He had a chef that lasted 4 hours and then bailed on him. So he's struggling. If we offered a Saturday promotion and went really hard at Saturdays in West Perth and put money behind it, that would make sense to me. At the moment, this is just another hodgepodge of different parking campaigns that I'm lost. How many parking campaigns have we got at the moment? Every time I open Instagram, there's a different offering. Like Councillor Bain said, the Deputy Lord Mayor said, I'd love to offer free parking for everyone as well. Then we'd have to raise rates by a ton, or we'd have to supercharge our property review and start selling things left, right and centre to fund the organisation. So please treat parking very carefully. That said, this is an incredibly... West Perth is a microcosm of Perth, right? We can't pull a lever and magically bring people back. You know what the Premier can do is what he did today and drop the mask. That will do more for the city and West Perth than anything we can do here. I'm supporting it because I support a $130,000 investment into the trial, but don't be surprised if Northbridge Common, East Perth Local or anyone else comes in and said, well, hang on, give us free parking for until 30 June 2023.
Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Is there anybody who wishes to speak against the motion? Thanks, Councillor Leeser.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think echoing what Councillor Fleeton said, it feels like we should do the review first. So I just can't support the current motion until we've got the review and we know everything. All it does is moving away from user pays parking to spreading the cost to our ratepayers. And without a review, it's very hard to know if we're doing the right thing, if we're pressing the right levers. We know from East Perth that 15-minute free parking works very well for vibrancy. So that could be a lever that we need, but we don't know it unless we've got a review. So I can't support it at this point.
Thanks, Councillor Leeser. Anyone else wish to speak for the amended primary motion? Anyone else wish to speak against the amended primary motion? Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, for a number of reasons stated already this evening, I won't be supporting the motion. It's clear that Councillor Angie is very passionate about our community and the West Perth neighbourhood, and also that the West Perth local group have great ideas of how we can help support them. But notwithstanding this, I fear both the erosion of our parking business through these piecemeal initiatives. We had the presentation from our very competent staff, and we can see that we're foregoing millions of dollars in parking revenue from initiatives. And as Councillor Fleeton says, it's hard to keep up with what's going on where and what they're actually delivering. I also fear that there could be unanticipated side effects. I hear from residents in East Perth they can no longer park at their favourite shopping area in the city or in other parts of the city, because of these parking initiatives that have now lock up parking. So to me, the idea of people parking in front of these businesses and then taking a walk to Kings Park for 2 hours doesn't serve our ratepayers at all. I think that we need to make sure that any changes to our parking are sustainable, and the Lord Mayor's amendment will help with that. I think the motion itself changed from being a motion with notice. Then we heard from Steve Wellard, presented good ideas from the floor. They got incorporated into the motion, and then at 3:16 this afternoon we've received a further revised motion. So I'm supportive of the review, whatever happens, but I have to stay true to what I believe, and that's that we need to make sure parking is sustainable.
Thanks, Councillor Gordon. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak for the motion? Anyone else who wishes to speak against? This is the amended primary motion.
Can I just ask a question? Can
Sure.
you split them out? Can we vote on one and two separately?
Yes. Can we do that? Okay. So if I've got this right, then we're going to put 1 to the vote and then put 2 to the vote. Yes, Councillor Andrew, you got a question here?
I haven't had a chance to close the debate.
No, I realise that. So we haven't done that yet, but I'm just checking if we are able to do that.
Exactly.
Okay. So we are going to separate the two, and that was moved by Councillor Angie, seconded by Councillor Bobbitt. So we'll get to close that part of the debate. So no, just once. Okay. Councillor Angie?
Firstly, just to clarify a few things mentioned in the debate that weren't quite accurate. The motion is actually exactly as it went up at the last meeting. All I did was in the last meeting there was 4 parts to it also, but I was requesting some further information. That information has now been provided to all of us, and therefore that became redundant. So the substance of it is exactly as last month. And as I said, the tweak in relation to Harvest Terrace was just because that is exactly what the administration recommended that we do. I'll read it out again. The administration stated in the response to my motion last month, an opportunity exists to extend on a trial basis the 1 hour free parking to Harvest Terrace and Thomas Street on Hay Street, Monday to Saturday. That was the administration's response to my motion. In terms of the unintended side effects that a number of people have raised, I think we all know that West Perth is, as I said before, all neighbourhoods are different, and West Perth's completely different to the others. While I know you often struggle to find a parking bay in other neighbourhoods in our city, in West Perth, I did a social media video where you can actually walk down the parking bays because there's no one parked in them, and in fact sent daily updates for a couple of weeks to the Lord Mayor and CEO documenting the absence of people parking in West Perth. In relation to questions about the parking levy we pay anyway. The revenue we raise currently is the cost of this notice of motion, not the parking money. So, as I said before, I ask that fellow councillors support this notice of motion in its entirety to support local business in West Perth who are doing it tough. It is a trial basis, and a full review will also be underway. But let's, as I said, help support businesses where we can, where the financial cost is not too great, and in this case it is not. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. So we are going to put point 1 to the vote first. Yep. All those in favour? That's Councillor Coe, Councillor Angie, Councillor Gobbett, the Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Bevan and Councillor Fleeton. And all those against? Councillor Leeser and Councillor Gordon. So point 1 has been passed 5-2. And 7-2. My apologies. And point 2, we'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that has been carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody.
Lord Mayor, just quickly, it's immaterial. Is it Collins Street or Collin Street?
Collin, I believe,
Yeah.
no S.
Can we fix that up in the motion? Please?
Sure. OCD, I think that's called, Councillor. But I like it. Yeah, no, very good point. So we move then to 18, matters for which the meeting may be closed. We're now going to move behind closed doors to consider confidential item 18.1. The live stream will be paused and the Lord Mayor, I think, is going to depart. So mover first for that. Mover is Councillor Fleeton, seconder. Councillor Gordon, all those in favour? That's unanimous. Okay, so if I could ask the gallery now to vacate the chamber for the live stream to be paused. and invite any public to return. Oh, we need to vote on that. All those in favour of reopening the meeting? Yes, unanimous. Live stream back on, please, if we could. You're saying we don't do that? Okay, rightio. So moving on to item 19 now, urgent business. Is there any urgent business?
No, Lord Mayor.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, with that, there being no further business, I will now declare the ordinary council meeting closed at precisely 6:43 p.m. My thanks to the administration and to fellow councillors. Thanks. Oh, one final thing. It is Siobhan, is it Rippington? Yes. Siobhan Rippington's final council meeting with us. And Siobhan's been of great assistance to me through exciting times and less exciting times. But hey, that's council business. But Siobhan, from me and on behalf of our councillors and I'm sure the administration, thank you very much for your great assistance. I in particular have greatly appreciated your assistance, your patience and your enthusiasm. And good luck wherever you may be heading. Thanks everyone.
Please all rise for the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr Basil Zemplis.